We are live now. Let me officially start the session, Dr. Tommaso. Yeah. Very good day to everyone. A very warm welcome to each and everyone who have joined us for Saveetha International Architecture E-Talk series, conducted by Saveetha College of Architecture and Design, Saveetha Institute of Medical and Technical Sciences. I am Dr. Deepak Arun, Associate Dean, International Affairs, Saveetha School of Engineering, Saveetha Institute of Medical and Technical. At the outset, I extend my sincere thanks to our Honorable Chancellor, sir. My thanks to our Director, Madam, for Madam continued guidance, support, and vision. Today, we are assistant professor and researcher at prestigious Sapienza University of Rome, Faculty of Architecture, Italy. Saveetha Institute of Medical and Technical Sciences has an ongoing collaboration and signed an MOU with Sapienza University in the School of Aerospace Engineering. Couple of faculties from Sapienza have already visited our campus and conducted credit course to our students. This international Saveetha Architecture E-Talk series is the second in the series. Now, I request Professor Balsava, Dean, Saveetha College of Architecture Design, to give his welcome address.
Thank you. We're really honored and happy to have Dr. Tommaso Empler with us today, talking on a very important subject. It's a theme which has actually a dual theme. One, because of the contemporary condition when we are already moving into digital platforms, digital interface. So the theme of information communication technologies. Something which is very futuristic is really combined with the idea of disseminating cultural heritage, which really has a long past and memory. So we look forward to Professor Tommaso Empler's presentation, and we hope to have Professor Empler with us at our Saveetha studio sometime soon after the lockdown, and look forward for many more collaborations with Sapienza University. Thank you, Dr. Empler. We would request you to commence your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Now I take privilege in introducing the speaker, Dr. Tommaso Empler. Dr. Tommaso Empler is an assistant professor and researcher at the prestigious Sapienza University of Rome, Faculty of Architecture. Sapienza University. Dr. Empler's research topics include forms of representation evolved through digital interface, both in design and survey. Research on communication system related to visual and extra-visual perception, development and enhancement of ICT, information communication technologies linked to cultural heritage decimation. Research in BIM and HBIM fields. Dr. Empler has authored and co-authored several significant papers and monograms related to scientific research fields as described above. Dr. Empler has lectured across the world in several leading universities. I am very happy and glad to welcome you, sir. Please address the gathering. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your invitation. I'm very glad to be here today and to speak with your university and to speak for your university. As you heard, I am an architect and I'm coming from a department of history, representation, and restoration of architecture. That means that one of the main topic is cultural heritage in its multiform and plural, mode to communicate. For this reason, we are developing researches on ICT, information to communication technologies, to enhance and disseminate cultural heritage. Because as you know, Italy has a lot of heritage, and it's very important for us to make this heritage known to visitors, to tourists, but also to scholars and researchers. So we can say that today, in a lot of situations, one of the main topic is dissemination and communication of cultural heritage, especially in Europe, and especially in Italy, and particularly in Rome. ICT are linked to the possibility of viewing and reconstruction environments and places that belong to our past, and with which everyone gets in touch for tourist reason, work reason, or research reason. Before we start and we see what kind of research we do, usually we also try to make people understand better what people or in other parts of the world are researchers and institutions are making. For the reason I will show you at the very beginning of this communication, I will show 2 short videos that shows in which direction we will go during this hour when we will stay together. So the first one, this is it's a journey through ancient Rome. This is the very middle part of Rome, the most important architectural and ancient part. And in this area, it was organized a sort of visiting line where people can understand what happens in that part of the city during the last century. There were a lot of works that destroyed old buildings because they wanted to come out what was the ancient part of Rome that was completely covered by those buildings. So in this part, this is the Fora of Caesar. There is a lot of projection mapping, 3D reconstruction, just to make people better understand what was that site like in the past. As you can see, the content are obviously organized and to say managed by architects and archaeologists together, because what we have, it's not a completely how to say completely part of those buildings on the site. So we need to make a lot of reconstruction to make people better understand what was that like. This is an open air museum in an ancient part of the city. What we also have is a kind of museums that are museums in buildings that are still quite completed, and where there is another kind of reconstruction that is using head mount devices. This is the Domus Aurea, that it's very close to the Colosseum. And here the work that people, architects, and archaeologists that did is to reconstruct what you see just in this video today, because there are a lot of rooms, but these rooms are insignificant. They don't have any kind of characteristic or quality to make people understand what was there. And now what they did is just to make a reconstruction in 3D with a 3D model, and people inside the house, the Nero Domus Aurea, are now able to understand how it was looking in the past.
This month, when visitors could start using virtual reality glasses.
The room looked out centrally onto one of the two pentagonal courtyards.
Tom Papa is from New York.
We always try and imagine in your mind what it must have been like, and this helps tremendously.
Virtual reality brings to life the Domus Aurea's grand architecture, rich colors, and opulent walls inlaid with precious gemstones. All of it had been lost for centuries.
This entire room was filled with soil like this.
Yes, and also other spaces, other rooms.
Totally
was completely filled. We know now.
Alessandro Di Alessio, the chief archaeologist here, explained how this place was buried following Emperor Nero's death.
In the ancient historiography, it was depicted as a monster.
As a monster.
The emperor's massive compound was covered over. It was forgotten about for nearly 1,500 years until Renaissance artists tunneled down into what they believed was an ancient Roman cave.
Painters during Renaissance times would come through that hole and discovered the Domus Aurea.
Yes.
The marvelous frescoes they saw influenced art for centuries, and their paintings of this site would become a roadmap for a much later generation of digital artists.
Nothing is invented. Nothing is invented. Every part of the reconstruction has a scientific base. We have the gold.
Raffaele Parlani is an architect and graphic designer whose company, Catatexi Loops, painstakingly created the virtual reality show.
And you recognize from this shape, this strange shape here. We have this strange shape here.
So you go back to these Renaissance paintings to recreate what this looked like.
Yes.
And then transition to here, digital.
Yes.
It's Italy, so of course his studio has its own frescoed ceiling. Working from the town of Emilia outside Rome, designers used the graphically rich technology of video games to virtually transport tourists inside the ancient Domus Aurea to see its grandeur, its colorful marble, and sweeping views of Rome.
You look down at the grass, and the grass is moving in the wind.
This is funny. I saw a lot of children that try to
touch the grass. It looks lifelike.
The city of Rome has used technology to reimagine several tourist sites, including the forums of Caesar and Augustus. History is illuminated through lasers and light shows projected on the ruins.
Through the virtual reality, you can.
Okay, I'm going further on that we already saw this part. And let's see how we work just to produce such reconstruction. Sorry. Okay. As I'm saying, how we proceed in this direction. First of all, as you can see here, there is a little area where we worked on, and we developed our researchers. Our researchers are not so big as you saw in the previous videos. As you can see, they're quite interesting about the procedures and about the methodology we are using. So what I'm going to show you is a framework for an archaeological area that is pointed out by an architect point of view. And it's a Roman domus. The Roman domus is very close to an ancient wall that was the Aurelian ancient wall bounding the city of Rome. Sorry, I don't understand what happens. Just a moment. Okay. And what we found out in the Eleniana Domus, there were a lot of interesting things. First of all, a lot of pavings with mosaics. Then we found out a lot of paintings. And as you can see in this image, everything was covered by the superintendency just to protect the area and to protect the colors and the materials that they found in this site. We organized our work just going on the site and make a recording of data. So it's called a data acquisition using laser scanner 3D. And usually we use laser scanner 3D. We combine it with drone photogrammetry because usually you also need to have the covers, and it's very difficult, as you know, with only with the laser scanner from the ground to have a complete reconstruction model. Also, if it's a point cloud model, a reconstruction model of what we have in front of us, facing us. And after that, we are able, combining the points cloud and organizing them with a mesh program, 3D modeling program, to produce a 3D mesh model. And this 3D mesh model are able to make a quality reconstruction of the site. We can see again a little video about the reconstruction phase of the Domus Eleniana. This is where we are. Obviously, this is Rome, because the main thing is to understand that in which kind of culture we are living. I'm talking about, obviously, about the Domus. So what we did is to organize the material and to make a reconstruction of the site, how it was looking in the past, and using, obviously, information technologies and digital technologies to make first the data acquisition and to work on data acquisition, and also to make the viewing quite clear to people, to visitors, and especially to scholars and researchers. About the reconstruction hypothesis, we worked with archaeologists, with people that were working on the site for about 10 years, and they were not able, up to when we started together this research, to understand and to visualize in the correct way how the place was looking in the past. And now we have another short video that it shows us how it was working, a corridor and the main room that we found in this place. Take in mind that the place now it's covered. That is quite interesting, as I said before, because everything can be preserved, and any kind of dissemination or any kind of work we are doing inside, it's a good work, because we can, how to say, work in a free way. We don't have a lot of stoppings from the superintendency, just because the place it's already organized as a place where museums or visitors can just get in. So after the reconstruction, we also try to make people understand better with using projection mapping, how was the floor and how was the ceiling, how was the wall, and how the wall were did by the Romans in the ancient, in the past. So this is the visitor route inside the area. This is what they can see with the projection mapping project, understanding better how the wall was or how was looking the pavement. On the pavement, we have 3 levels of pavements. So that means that the Domus was very ancient and was moving in 3 or 4 centuries from one, how to say, one kind of organization to another kind of organization. Also, what we did here was also to understand with augmented reality how the place was working and make, with the 3D model, people better understand the volumes and the rooms of the site. Another procedure we did that it's in the center imperial part of Rome, and it's the Forum of Nerva. We made also here research that it's a real-time procedure. That means that we make a reconstruction of the area, and we were able to move inside the area. What we did better is also to make a sort of time machine where we can just jump from one period to another period and to understand how the area was transformed in centuries. We just started from 2 images that were made by the superintendency. This is the image that was, how to say, doing the site during the imperial time. And this is the image of the same place after 9 centuries. The superintendency didn't have any sort of other material to understand better how this place was working. And we concentrate our work on making a 3D model reconstruction, and we will see later in a video, and moving into this 3D model and jumping from the period of the Roman Empire to the period of what we call medieval age, that was 9th century, 10th century after the Roman period. But we concentrate our work on the site also with some augmented reality tasks and organization. We organized an app that is called Nervar, that was able to show to, obviously, as I said before, to visitors, tourists, and also to scholars how the site was working, and giving information on the site, because when you are there, it's not very simple to how to say, to understand how the site is organized, especially because we have a main road that makes a collision between the Colosseum and a very important square in the other part. This is this main road that is called the Imperial Road. It's how you can, as you can see, just cut in 2 parts the imperial area for us, and it was quite impossible to understand the organization of the Forum of Nerva, that is what you can see here in the middle part, because it was just cut in 2 by the road. So the 3D model reconstruction and app that was explaining better how the place was working, and then we did also another kind of experience that was an interaction experience on the site, just to make people understand better what some part of the site was looking for, and having information about that, was to say a research completed in three parts. So 3D model, app for portable devices, and interaction experience on the site. Joined all the three of them together. This is a video that shows better what we saw in a frame, in the three frame separately, and let's see what I was talking about the 3D model of the reconstruction and the real-time navigation of the Aura of Nerva. We call it Nerva 4D. This application is in Italian and in English, obviously, and as you can see, there is a main page where you can understand how the Fora was looking in imperial period and how it was looking in the medieval age. Then when you move into the site, take in mind that it's a real-time moving, and we did all the process with open source program. Everything was modeled with Blender and texturing and other kind of stuff that was needed to make the program and the application better functioning was made also with other open source program like GIMP, Inkscape, and so on. As you can see, when you move in the area, you can have a lot of spots where you can have further information about columns, because today you have only 2 columns that makes people understand that you are in that kind of fora, in the fora of Nerva. And all the things we see here, it's just a reconstruction. The reconstruction was given by images coming from the past, was a reconstruction given from the ruins they found on the place, and a lot of interpretation of archaeologists and of architects. After that, you will see also on the forum of Nerva the app we were talking about before. This is an application for smart devices. The application, unfortunately, was thinking only for iOS system devices, but we hope that we can develop it also soon for Android and also for Microsoft devices. It works, as you see, with augmented reality, and gives a lot of information about the area. So you move into the area, the Imperial Fora area, and you have information on the forum of Nerva, either also in a lot of other forums that are in the main central area of Rome. Sorry, I did a mistake, because just a moment, there is the third part of the video. Excuse me, I made a mistake. Here we have. Here we worked with Elite Motion 3D, and we're supposed to make a little postation on the site, where with your finger you can just point what you have in front and have information about the columns or the temperature, or about the statues and any other kind of part that is there on the site. Just to have information that no one gives you, because obviously it's in an open area, and you can have information only with a guide, and now we are just trying to make an electronic kind of guide that is using this kind of instruments that are called, obviously, information communication technologies. That was the last part of the video. Then another part of our research is going also on the direction of projection mapping. Here you can see a projection mapping, that how it works, and this is an exhibition that made in 2015 on the on the Colosseum of Rome. And also in this case, our technologies, the digital technologies, are able, using also 3D models, to organize a presentation and to make people better understand monuments, sites, and buildings. Obviously, in this case, there are two main parts that join together, that is the artistic part and the scientific part. Scientific part, it's connected with the, how to say, the main emergencies you have on the site, while the artistic part, it's something that makes the video and the projection mapping more spectacular to visitors. Another kind of dissemination we have in the center part of the city is also using very simple 3D glasses, that it's an anaglyph with an anaglyph. This is that means that you have a glasses, wearing on a glasses with two lenses, that it's a red lens and a blue or green lens, and you are able to see the reconstruction and what happens on a lot of buildings that are usually are church facades or main facades of ancient buildings. Another kind of direction we are working on, and as you saw before, it's very close to what we saw in the forum of Nerva with a real-time reconstruction, is connected to serious games, because we think that also we are able to teach to students, to kids, but also to just say to visitors that are interested on how the city was looking in the past. To this in a better way, this is an image of a game that probably most of you knows, that it's Assassin's Creed, and it's in particular the appointment of Assassin's Creed that touched Rome. Well, what we did and what we think that we can work in this direction, as I said before, to make people better understanding how the city was looking in the past. And for this reason, we are working also with some 3D model programs that are coming from game site, from the game application. And as we can see in the next video, this is a reconstruction we did of Rome in the 17th century, and we just asked people to move into the city and to better understand how the city was looking in that period. And everything looks like a game. It means that it's game like a methodology to make people better understand the sites. This is Rome year 1600, that is 17th century. Capomarzio is the oldest part of the city. So we worked a lot in this direction because we were not able to make a fidel reconstruction of all the parts of the city. So we worked with kinds in two directions. We worked in the first direction, that was to make a good reconstruction of the of the main buildings, and a reconstruction of what was the site looking in another kind of reconstruction. So a level of where main buildings are perfectly reconstructed, and a second level where you just are able to understand how the city was looking like, but that kind of buildings are not on the site. So Palazzo de Torres or Palazzo Orsini, that means building the Torres or building Orsini, was really there. This is street of Coronari, and it's one of the main ancient road in Rome. This is Lancelotti building, and at that time they were making a new facade, a new door to get in. And this is Palazzo Orsini, is another of the buildings in the city that was very important at that period, because Orsini was a very important family in the city, and they had a lot of buildings and a lot of parts in the city of Rome. Obviously, there are reconstruction also of churches and many other kinds of buildings. Some of them probably are known by you because there are a lot of artists and architects that worked on, like Borromini, Bernini, and many other architects, important architects for the culture and history of Rome. Palazzo Farnese, it's the French embassy in Rome, and it's a Rinascimental building. It's one of the main important buildings in the city of the Rinascimental period. Okay, this way you see how it's possible to work with a program that it's Unreal, a program that is for gaming, just to make a better reconstruction of the city. Keep in mind that when we work in this direction, obviously we always start with a data recording of what the buildings are today, and then we proceed with the 3D modeling reconstruction to better understand how they were looking in the past. Working in this direction, we then have a gamification also process. Gamification process, that means that you try to make people better interested in situations, in buildings, in sites, just trying to moving them in the city or in a park or in an archaeological area, making their interest always live with some interaction modalities that is move there, try to find something, or try to make to give the right answer to some question. At the end of this process, you can gain bonuses or gain some, let's say, some coins that are virtual coins that are for you helpful to buy a book or to organize a new visit in another place or something that goes in this direction, that is always a cultural direction. In this process, as you said, you saw in many of the images, the previous images, there is also another kind of process joined, that is a 3D printing, because when we worked and we tried to make the simulation on the forum of Nerva and on the interaction experience on the forum of Nerva, we also needed to make a 3D model of how the columns of that part, the remaining part, was looking for. And the 3D printing, it's for this reason very helpful for us to make a reconstruction pieces and to make better understanding a lot of things. So we did a lot of 3D printing about the columns, the sides, but also we made some reconstruction about, for instance, this is Athena. Athena is the symbol of our university. University of Rome, it's called La Sapienza. Athena, Sapienza means knowledge, knowing, and Athena was the god of knowledge in the past. She was a lady, obviously, and what we did also is to make a reconstruction of ancient statue to make people better understand a lot of things, and to make also in this direction some a special gift to the president of our republic when he made a visit to our campus 2 years ago. That was the 80th year of the campus of Sapienza. So it was very important for us to give to our president a very original gift, and the original gift was to making for him a very special statue that was the statue of Athena. And now we see another kind of reconstruction that is mixing together 3D printing with 3D model reconstruction with real time and augmented reality visualization. This is Circus of Maxentius. It's one of the biggest circus we have in Rome. Probably is the better conserved more than the Circus of Maximus, that is the one that probably everyone knows when comes and sees when comes in Rome. And as you can see here, there was developed a special application for a portable device where using only the printing model of a part of the circus, the application is able to make a reconstruction of the whole circus. And what is really interesting in this application that you have moving stuffs inside. So you have always an horses with a quadriga that moves just pointing on special buttons. And so you have the perception that augmented reality is not only a static viewing, but also dynamic viewing where you have stuffs that moves. And then the last video we saw, this is the construction of the Acropolis of Volterra. Where moving into the site, we made a reconstruction of some of the temples, of the Etrurian temples of the area, present in the area. In this case, we use a head mount visor to better understand how the site was looking. Okay, the last experience we made was also with a reconstruction of some bridges of Rome. Also, these bridges, it's especially one bridge that it's called the Broken Bridge, that has an ancient history. It is one of the most ancient bridge in Rome. I think so. It has more than 2,000 years, and we made also in this case an application for smart devices on this kind of bridge. I'm sorry if you find there a lot of Italian words, but I will try to make the translation for you. Ponti di Roma, it means bridges of Rome. That is the broken bridge, where we have augmented reality, history, and some curiosities. Here there is a timeline where you can find Roman period and how the bridge was looking in the Roman period, how it was looking in the Renaissance period. Then in 1860, where you had half of the bridge that was the Roman bridge and half of the bridge it was an iron bridge, and how the site is working today, looking today. So augmented reality, history, and history on the Roman period, where we also make a little animation for kids to make kids also better understand how the site was. And with augmented reality, we are also able to point out some of the decorations of the bridge, of the remaining part of the bridge. And as you can see, the bridge is very small today, and the parts remaining are very, 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 very low. Okay, I'm going very fast, and I suppose that I am in time, and probably we are at the end of presentation. So let me say something more about our procedures, our researches, and what we did and what I show you today. That are we have a lot of cultural heritage, as you can see in Italy, and what we need is to make a proper dissemination and communication to visitors, as I said before, and especially to scholars. And we need to work also on two levels, because a visitor level is completely different from a scholar level, because a scholar wants to know and to learn much more than a visitor, a common visitor that could be just a tourist and not interested in going farther on in such in this kind of direction. And what is very important for us is the starting data and collecting the data. That it's not, as you can understand, very simple, because we need to use technologies and we need to use instruments that are able to collect a lot of data. But when you collect all this kind of data, you need also to have a critical view of what you really need and what you must discard from this data. And the starting points, usually it's a point cloud coming from a laser scanner survey, and where you use also to join a photogrammetry that probably comes from a photo modulation coming from a drone photogrammetry, or just photogrammetry that can be taken from the top. Because with a laser scanner survey campaign, you're not able to know what are the coverture, what are the roofs, or what are the ceilings of the buildings you have in front of you. After that, we need to make a process that it's quite difficult, because it's a very heavy process for machines, that it's a 3D mesh model, and where you need to work a lot just to select which parts you need to keep in the model and which part you need to discard because are not useful for your operation. After that, you can start working in different kinds, in different directions, in different kinds of direction. First kind of direction is working just using the eyes of the visitor. So you can work with projection mapping, just with projection of any kind on the site. Obviously, projection mapping for open areas are useful or only nighttime, but enclosed areas are useful also during the day, because you need just to make the room very, very dark, and then you can make projection of any kinds. Another kind of solution is using portable devices, that it's a phone, a tablet, or any other kind of stuff you can keep with you. And this means that you need to see the reconstruction via the display of your device. And the third kind of solution is using head-mount devices, as we saw in the last video, that was the video on the Acropolis of Volterra, where you have a completely immersive vision of the area and of the stage you have around. Probably with an head-mount solution, we can even try to understand better if it's better to work with an Oculus Rift solution. That means that you are completely in a completely immersive procedure, where you don't have any kind of touch with what you have around. Or you can use another kind of immersive procedure, that is the one that gives, for instance, Samsung VGR solution, where using the photo camera of your device, you're able to get completely in touch with what you have around. So these kinds of solution are a solution completely different from them, that gives a visualization, a good and the right visualization of what you have around. Then we move to a real-time reconstruction that gives and moves into the serious game level, and where you are able to produce a game or something that is very close to gaming, and to make people learn the areas, the buildings, or what the site was looking like before it means in the ancient time. At the last step, we have also gamification process. That means that you can even try to make some gaming where there is how to say, a collection of scores, of bonus, of tips that are able to give you, how to say, to make a final ranking where the best of the day or of the month or just of the day are able to gain some bonuses in gift shops or to gain and to have some more ticketing for new cultural areas or something like that. So this is the direction how we intend ICT for reconstruction of the ancient sites of what we have around us. That it's in Italy, as I said at the beginning of our talk. It's a lot. We have a lot of how to say, archaeological sites and buildings that are coming from 3,000 years ago up to today. And I suppose that a lot of these procedures and this methodology can be used also on your site, because your site, India, it's full of cultural heritage sites and it's full of culture. And I think so probably that most of you are still using this kind of procedures to make a better communication of the countries, of the instrument, of the monuments, of any kind of site you are interested on. Okay, I think so. This is the last words I'm saying about my presentation, about my talk. I don't know if there are any kind of question. I'm here to answer to any kind of question if there are.
Thank you, Professor. Now the floor is open for questions, please. Please unmute and speak.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah. So, first of all, thanks a lot for the amazing presentation. I just love the way in which, the narration went with hand in hand with the history. And do you think that history needs to make an allegiance with technology for it to, bring a better present? For example, people say that revolution is revolving towards a better past. So, do you think that this revolution of technology taking history and recreating whatever is happening? So, we have 3 different timelines which are happening. So, right now, which is the real reality that we are to right now, and then the historical reality, which we are able to superimpose through augmented reality, which is your project, and through virtual reality, where we are taken into a completely new space of a site, which is a cyberspace. So, what exactly would your thought be about usage of technology for bringing history to a close quarters? From rather than being a theory-oriented subject, when we use these kind of mediums to bring history to a place where people would love to, get into these gamified ambient spaces and relive a better past. What would you think or like to say about these technological aspects which help to rebuild history, and which is a contemporary way of rebuilding history? So it is like a future past.
Okay, let's say that the main task is communication first of all. Okay, so the main word of the ICT is communication. So the first thing you need to know is you are making a kind of communication, dissemination, call it as you like. Because communication, it's a word that has a sense completely different to me from dissemination. Because communication, and you can just speak with, I'm just speaking with you, so we are making a communication. Dissemination means that we are trying to give to the communication a specific connotation, a specific characteristic. That means we are dealing about history, for instance. Okay, so obviously, to make a good communication of the past, first of all, you need to have also a lot of historical data, because you need to work in a team where you have an historical, where you have an archaeologist, but where you have also an architect or an expert of a representation that is 3D model, for instance, but you need also to have an engineer that is able to develop some devices and new solutions. This is how we look at our past, but you can even, as you said, work to look at the future, because you can even use the same kind of communication to see what a city or a site will look after. But you know, it's a completely different field, because our field is in a field of what was the past looking and how it looks today. The field you're talking about is the field of new design. So when I make a new project, how the project will look in the future, because you start you are in an area where you have nothing at all, and using these instruments, you're able to make people better understand how the site will look after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, when the project will be completed. I think so that the instruments are just the same. What changes is the data processing at the beginning, because in our procedure, data is very important, because we need a very good data collection. And if you work in design process, you never need a good data process, because you just need to know the morphology or the orography of the ground, but you never need to know nothing else about the buildings. For us, in our procedure, we need to know a lot about the buildings, about the ruins, about any kind of of piece of stone you find or you can find on the site. That is the difference between what we are doing in a construction of the past and what we can do in a prefiguration of the future. I hope to give an answer to your question.
Sure, because I love the way in which, when the present was being juxtaposed with the past, which was the bridge. So you were able to see a timeline of various events that happened, and the way in which architecture evolved over a period of time. So I found it to be like a time machine, where I was visually able to see what was happening in that point, or at that point where architecture was thriving or evolving itself. It's like an infant trying to grow from being a baby to an elder person. So that is something I found it really, really amazing about. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. This kind of procedures and obviously 3D modeling, it's a very good system to make prefiguration of the futures. Mm-hmm. So when you work with a timeline, you can go even in farther on for 2,000, 3,000 years. So that means you can go back, but you can go also farther on. Mm-hmm. And it's just to it's a scientific matter. First of all, you need to know what you're interested on. Are you interested in designing? Are you interested in representing? Are you interested in knowing what it was the past looking like? It's just a question to know what is your scientific topic, where is your scientific field. To me, my scientific field is representation. So I'm working with representation and communication. So I can deal with ancient part, but I can also deal with future. For me, it's exactly the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Professor, that was a very interesting presentation, very informative, showing various levels of application, right from very scholarly work to the idea of gaming, to the idea of maybe even for tourism or even a citizen participating in this. So it really is crossing all sections of society with different interests. And I think it is a very rigorous research because it's Rome, and which has probably so many layers coexisting even today. So I think some of the questions that have been asked and which I just raised, they've texted it to me. One question that they were asked is that, was this also based on, because 20 or 30 years ago, there was, I think, a complete model of Rome which was made. Now, when you go back into history, I'm sure that every historian has a different view of that history, because there is also a part speculation and there's a part reality, So how much was reinterpreted in the processes you have shown from what was known of Rome? Because when you get back into it, I think it will open up newer histories. So that was one question. And of course, your process shows that if there is a new finding, or I think under the Coliseum they found something more, or the Trajan's Forum, then because it's an augmented reality, one could even create 2 or 3 parallel models if they're speculative models, and place them next to one another. It need not be one idea of a city or one idea of Rome, and that's what your process is showing. So one of the questions is, how much did you all have to reinterpret in this?
All right. Yes, you made a new question. A new question that is with layer on layers, because you know that Rome has a lot of certification, and even in the ancient Rome we have 4 or 5 different levels. Let's say that about reinterpretation of what you saw today, there is a very little, because almost of the things you saw are controlled by experts. So let's say that, and I'm an architect, and I am interested in representation and dissemination and communication. So what I'm trying to connect an archaeologist or a paleontologist, because we even work on paleontological sites. And so that are the people that know exactly what happens in that area. And you know that when you speak with an archaeologist, you know that the archaeologists usually stay in that area for their life long. So they stay on that area for 20, 30 years. So they know exactly what happens on that side. So what we need to do is to have the right corresponding on the archaeological site. Then we need to speak with them and to understand with them. That's what we usually used to do, and to understand how the models need to change, because obviously some of the parts are reinterpreted, but you know, we have a lot of cases all around that are able to give us the right solution. So there is a very little, very little that it's not how to say known today. I'm talking about the ancient Roman period.
Yes.
Obviously, if we go back in the past, let's say we go in the Turian period, that the population that was in Italy before the Romans, we have more problems on reconstruction. For instance, when we talked about the Acropolis of Volterra, you see the reconstruction was made only on the temple, but was not made on the buildings, because we have a lot of information of the temples, but we don't have information about the buildings, because the buildings were made of were made of ground,
Mud,
so they were not
mud.
Yeah, they were not made of
and
stone.
mud.
They were not made of stone, so we don't have a lot of information about how the building was looking like. We have a lot of information, for instance, from the Etrurian period about their tombs. We have a lot of tombs around Rome and Tuscany and other parts. So we know what was their funerary architecture looking like, but we don't know a lot about the houses. So the another part, we need also to make a trade between the archaeologists and the engineers, because we need also to have people that are able to organize this information and to transform this information for portable devices, for instance. And you know what I'm thinking, and that we have between us from Sapienza and you from university, the chance also to work together, because I know that in India you work a lot with technologies and you have a lot of good engineers.
Yes.
That means that we can even try to make a joining, on some projects where we work on one direction, and probably we can join each other and support each other in trying to make a good process.
Sure.
Because you have a very good engineering school. That means that you have a lot of informatical engineers that are able to develop a lot of stuffs. And probably we have more than you, but I'm not sure about what I'm saying now, archaeological and cultural heritage, because we have a culture that preserves everything of the past, and our archaeologists never allows to move nothing if it's not before controlled by them. This was how to say, an organization we had in our country. This is probably also why in Italy we have a lot of UNESCO sites, because there was a lot kept there of the past. But probably, as I'm saying, there we can join each other and try to understand, to say, some lines of researches where each of us give his expertise and use his expertise to make a project. And the projects can be even, as we were talking about, something that it's in your city or something that it's in our city. And probably, as you said, if you have a Roman trade post under your campus, probably we can just start from that and just try to understand how was the trading, in ancient times between India and Italy, and what was the route like, and how the Romans organized the routes coming from Italy and going to India. Because the Roman Empire was very, very big, but everything was coming to Rome, everything. So Rome was really the center of that kind of world. There was a route coming from the Far East, because India for us was, and for Romans probably was very far east, to the central part of the empire that was Rome. I think so we have a lot of things that we can do together, and even in this direction, because we have a lot of to say qualities in your university, in our university, and we can make projects together and to understand how we just need to understand how we can join each other and find projects and move just in this direction.
No, I think seeing your presentation, there's a lot of possibility now of doing many joint projects. And as I mentioned earlier, our university is actually situated in a part which had Roman trade 2000 years ago. So it really makes it more interesting to kind of collaborate and look at these areas which have not been researched enough, And it was not only land route, there was also shipping routes. So there was sea trade also. And so I think to reopen this, the documentation is there. We have it. I can share it with you. And I think to reopen this and relook at it, because what your process is doing is that it is adding many more layers to just an archaeologist finding an artifact on site and writing about it. There is a recreation, there is an engagement, there's an intercultural and an interdisciplinary kind of a process. And that would be great for us at our Saveetha Design Studios also to kind of, collaborate with Sapienza and really look at, even at the student and faculty level, how that can evolve into a studio, with all the layers from scholarly to a tourist input to a gaming. I think it really has opened something very, very, very interesting and very valuable even as an education process. So there are many others who come in, and I think your lecture has been actually relayed to over 20 countries right now, even live on FB. So maybe at some point in time, we can even have a broader collaboration of this process, using our laboratory here, because at Saveetha also, ours is an interdisciplinary university. So there is SSC, which is engineering. We have 3D printing. We have medicine. So there are all these other areas which can collaborate within. It is not only going to remain as architect. It's like a very interdisciplinary approach. So we look forward, Professor Empler, and we hope this lockdown is removed as soon as possible. We hope, because we, like you, definitely in India, where the Romans were 2000 years ago. And I think, yes, I think, and we also have Italian language in our university. So even language is not an issue, because we have many speaking Italian in the university. I think that kind of collaboration, which is happened because of the digital platform, but linked to something which is a very important ancient culture, gives a lot of. Your presentation really covered the whole thing. So if there are some other questions, or there are professors from other universities and scholars also here on. I can see Professor Nirmal Kulkarni from Delhi. He's here. Many others. So if they would like to ask one or two last questions before we close, would be good. Then I would request Dr. Jyoti Lakshmi to close the session if there were two more questions. Yeah. Professor Nirmal Kulkarni, would you like to respond? I leave it to Dr. Jyoti Lakshmi to kind of close the session. And thank you again, Dr. Empler. And I think this is the beginning, it's the end of the presentation, but the beginning of collaboration. And we
I hope so. I really hope so. Yes.
A warm good evening to one and all present here. I think it was a very informative and interesting presentation by Dr. Tommaso Empler. I think because right now when you look into it, in Indian context, now people are actually little reluctant to come into architecture because of the COVID, and they think that okay, the site, they won't be able to work in a site, and only the computer technology they have to go. I think architecture has a wide variety of information communication and technologies also there. With that technologies, we can look back and look forward and work wonderful things. I think this was a wonderful platform, and many of our students who are watching this program, I think they would have been really impressed, and most of them would be really interested to know what are the kind of tools which they have to use, softwares, platforms, what are the kinds of learning which they have to do for this kind of exploration in architecture through technology. So I think it was a wonderful presentation, and as rightly pointed out, we would like to do a lot of research work and collaborative work with your university, and our students also will be interested to know the historical part of it. I thank the management as well as Dr. Deepak sir, who collaborated for Dr. Tommaso Empler to be come in and give his valuable presentation over here. I thank the technical team as well as our faculty team, as well as our students and all the participants who are really listening to this particular wonderful presentation. And I think this has become like a very, very eye-opener for all of us, because maybe we are little older to that. I thought that technology is going in a different direction, and we also have to catch up and speed up our and maybe this COVID period has really brought all of us together with the technology, and all of us are coming closer and closer with the technology. And I think maybe that way we have to see that there are a lot of advantages also is happening right now, and we have to take everything in a very positive way and look forward to work further, and how actually speaking the bridge between the technology and the construction can be reduced, and but still we can have creative and innovative and sustainable with the layers of history into it, with the kind of forward future vision of our places, all that. It was a wonderful presentation. Thanks a lot, Thomas Empler, and I'm very happy that you could really make it, and it was a really nice, wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your invitation, and I hope that we can work together in the future as we are saying. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
all.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.